As the dust begins to settle after Premier Doug Ford's third straight majority win 3 weeks ago, we find out today whether any changes are coming to his cabinet. Good afternoon. Ford will unveil his new cabinet today in a swearing-in ceremony at the Royal Ontario Museum.
That ceremony happening later this afternoon, and a big question is whether it will be mostly status quo or a major shakeup is in store. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live with a look ahead. Siobhan.
Well, even if there aren't a whole lot of new faces in cabinet, this is certainly a different kind of day. The cabinet swearing in, this time coming from the Royal Ontario Museum. As you mentioned, this is Doug Ford's third time being re-elected as Premier, forming a majority government. This morning, he was sworn in also for the third time as MPP for Etobicoke North. That's a ceremony that every MPP has to go through before they have a chance at this extra ceremony, potentially being part of that Ford inner circle here at the ROM. We asked the Premier yesterday whether we should expect any major changes to his cabinet, whether he believes that there needs to be a point person to deal with Donald Trump's tariffs. Here's what he had to say.
I'll be dealing with that directly, but it's a multi-ministerial group that no matter if it's infrastructure we're talking or anything in the auto sector, be it Vic Fideli. So we'll all be working together and going to continue working together.
I think we're going to see a continuity cabinet, maybe someone designated to play point on the Trump tariff trade war. But beyond that, my guess is this is a BAU business as usual cabinet for Doug Ford.
So there is a lot of activity still just down the street at Queen's Park with MPPs of all stripes being sworn in, and that includes the opposition leader this morning.
I, Marit Stiles, solemnly affirm that I
And Marit Stiles was sworn in again for MPP of Davenport. Again, she is returning to lead the official opposition leader of the NDP for a second or third time now. The Liberals still without a seat for their leader in the House, though this time they will form official opposition status. Marit Stiles has asked for a total redrawing of the cabinet here. Here's what she has to say if we don't see that today.
We need to see affordable housing being actually built, and we need to bring back real rent control, that we need to fix the crisis in education and in healthcare. And yes, of course, we have to push back against the significant threat that we are seeing from Donald Trump in the United States. And if we do not see that change reflected in this cabinet and in this government's priorities, it is the job of me as a leader of the official opposition to hold this government to account.
Now, even though cabinet is being sworn in today, it will be some time before we see MPPs return to their seats at Queen's Park. That doesn't happen until April 14th. Reporting live from the ROM, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. The trade war front and center at Toronto City Hall, where the executive committee is considering the city's response to U.S. tariffs. Chow and her economic action team unveiled their plan to fight tariffs on Monday, including changes to procurement policies in favor of Canadian suppliers. The plan also includes an industrial property tax deferral to help businesses who will be hit hard by tariffs. The executive committee will now consider the proposals.
The City of Toronto and the federal government are teaming up, announcing a new agreement worth a staggering sum.
The objective is to build more rental homes faster in the city, hoping it will help get more people off the street and into housing. CTV's Scott Lightfoot is live at City Hall with more on the landmark deal. Scott.
Well, Nathan, this funding will help to create almost 5,000 rental homes, including more than 1,000 affordable rental units. Now, these buildings will be going up at sites all across the city: Scarborough, Etobicoke, East York, down by the waterfront. There's 7 different projects that will benefit here. Construction on these projects expected to start by the end of next year. And 20% of the units built will be affordable housing units. So the federal government is investing $2.55 billion in low-cost financing. The city is investing nearly $235 million in things like relief from development charges, fees, and property taxes. Mayor Olivia Chow this morning called this a landmark deal.
Why is it historic? Because it's the first time the federal government are willing to batch all the projects together and say to Toronto, we trust you to deliver them. It is first time. It is a Toronto-built, modeled under the BC built that was done a couple of years ago with the province in British Columbia. When I saw that, and I said, wait a second, We, too, are building housing. So I immediately said to the finance minister, what about us? We are ready to partner with you.
When we think of what this $2.5 billion is going to deliver, whether it's at Quayside, whether it's 49 Ontario, there are a number of specific projects that the city has identified as priorities, and we've worked hand in hand with CMHC to make sure we're getting those across the finish line as fast as possible. And really, if I can say, I mean, we have worked hand in hand to break down as many barriers as we can to get as much done as we can in a really short period of time, and we're going to continue to build up the city as much as we can and continue to be a really strong partner as a federal government for the City of Toronto.
And the City of Toronto and the federal government also reaffirmed their continuing work together to help those who are experiencing homelessness. The feds are going to commit $25.9 million to support immediate needs for those who are living in encampments, including health and mental health supports and the additional hiring of frontline staff. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. Now let's take a live look at the city this afternoon. The sun is shining and the temperature is climbing. This is a day to get outside and enjoy. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison with a look at the specifics. I mean, spring has arrived a day early.
Michelle, it is looking and feeling a whole lot like spring on this final day of winter. Temperature-wise, take a look. We are already at 13 degrees in Toronto, 16 in Hamilton, 17 degrees in Goderich, and 19 in Niagara Falls. Part of the reason, we've got some strong southerly winds to thank for ushering in the warmer air. Those gusty winds going to be with us through the day tomorrow, too. 18 is what we're forecasting for a daytime high, well above our seasonal average of 6. There's a little more in the way of cloud cover today than there was yesterday, but we are still enjoying some sunshine. This is the area of low pressure that's going to bring us some active weather starting overnight tonight and into the day tomorrow. Tomorrow, we also welcome spring officially at 5:01 a.m., but the first couple of days of the new season going to perhaps be a little bit cooler than what we've experienced the last few here. We'll take you through the weekend forecast coming up. For now, though, Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Lindsay. 6 teenagers are now facing charges following a failed jewelry store robbery.
Video of the suspect takedown was released by York Regional Police. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live with the details. Beth.
Nathan, this botched jewelry store robbery investigation started with a stolen vehicle in Vaughan. With York Regional Police following, they tracked the car to Markham before coming here to this parking lot at Wilson and Allen Road. What happened next was caught on camera by the police helicopter on Friday just after 1 in the afternoon.
They're masked up. They're looking to do something. They are masked up, boys.
At first, the suspects are looking around. It's important to note this is a heavily secured store with double locked doors. So to start, the suspects try and go in as 2 customers are leaving. When that doesn't work, they use hammers to try and smash the exterior windows. When that doesn't appear to work, the suspects go back to the car and police move in and hit the vehicle. Next, you see the suspects scatter in the parking lot. Police chase them all down and all are taken into custody. All the youth charged here are 16 and 17 years old. Police are calling it a blatant act and say the parking lot was full of bystanders.
Whenever I see video like this, it still gets my heart racing. You know exactly what's going on. You see just the fact that these guys are coming out here, they're going up to these doors, and you can see the speed and efficiency that the holdup unit, the 4 CIB, that our K9 and our ERU had moving in quickly. And again, it's great with this helicopter that any stragglers, anyone that's able to engage in a foot pursuit and try and flee from police, we're able to keep an eye on them for a long time. And maybe they win the short race, but we know that we're going to be able to catch up to them and get them later on because we know exactly where they are.
Police say this jewelry store took all the right precautions in terms of locked doors, buzzers, and cameras. Police say there have been 5 similar incidents like this since the start of the year in York Region, with 11 arrests made. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. A fire at a car dealership on Islington Avenue is being treated as arson. Fire crews were called to the dealership on Islington, south of Bloor, around 2:40 this morning. Firefighters were able to get inside and extinguish the flames. Fortunately, no one was injured in this fire. There's no word at this point from police on possible suspects.
And firefighters were called to a strip mall on Victoria Park near Ellesmere overnight. Crews were called to the fire just before 3 this morning. It was then upgraded to a 2-alarm fire. Now, most of the blaze was contained to a restaurant. After a search of the building was complete, no injuries were reported. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
3 people are in hospital and 1 person is in custody following a crash downtown. This happened shortly after 9 p.m. in the area of Dundas and Church after police got a hit for a stolen vehicle on their automatic license plate recognition software. Police say a vehicle collided with another one and a cruiser. 3 people were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police officers are not among them. 1 man is under arrest and the investigation is ongoing.
Peel police have arrested 1 man and are searching for another in connection with an assault in Brampton. 33-year-old Sarbjeet Singh of Brampton has been charged with discharging a firearm and assault with a weapon in connection with the incident on October 15th. Police say they responded to a physical altercation involving tow truck companies in a parking lot near Beauvais and Mountain Ash Road. 1 person suffered minor injuries. Police have also issued an arrest warrant for 25-year-old Jobanjit Singh. Now, he's wanted for attempted murder and unauthorized possession of a firearm.
And police have arrested a man in connection with a sexual assault investigation. 60-year-old Rolando Sessi is facing multiple charges of sexual assault as well as a charge of sexual interference. He is accused of sexually assaulting at least 2 boys between January of 2023 and this month. Police allege one of the victims was assaulted multiple times. They are concerned there may be other victims, and they're asking anyone with information to come forward.
Pro-Palestinian demonstrators rallied in Sankofa Square last night, expressing their anger over the recent Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Demonstrators chanted and held up signs calling for an end to the violence. The group is demanding the Canadian government impose a 2-way arms embargo on Israel.
So we're taking the streets to make our demands heard. We know an election is coming up. We're going to fight for an arms embargo because as Canadians, we don't want our taxpayers going funding Israel or ideologically supporting Israel.
Palestinian health authorities say more than 400 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has signaled there will be more attacks. Both Israel and Hamas have accused each other of breaking a truce between the 2 sides. Hamas has stated it wants to negotiate a permanent end to the fighting, while Israel has called for the return of all hostages taken on October 7th of 2023. Hamas still holds 59 hostages in Gaza.
Canada's Transportation Safety Board will release a preliminary report tomorrow into the crash of a Delta Airlines plane at Pearson Airport last month. 21 people were injured when the jet flipped upside down upon landing on February 18th. The plane touched down after a flight from Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Pearson officials said earlier that day they've been dealing with high winds and frigid temperatures. The airline presented $30,000 to all of the passengers soon after the incident. A number of lawsuits have been filed following the crash landing.
U.S. President Donald Trump is once again weighing in on Canadian politics. In an interview with Fox News, Trump said he would rather deal with a Liberal and made a jab at Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
The Conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a Liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
So your end game is... Trump also called Canada one of the nastiest countries to deal with on trade, again referring to the former Prime Minister as Governor Trudeau and saying Canada should be the 51st state. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Trump knows he would be a tough negotiator who would put Canada first, and that is why the U.S. president endorsed Carney. Here to tell us more is CTV's Scott Hurst. And Scott, Trump had some comments about the pending Canadian election and who he'd rather work with. We just heard them there. How do you think that could affect the race going forward?
Michelle, once again, we're hearing the U.S. president take aim at Canada for a whole host of reasons. Of course, weighing into a potential Canadian election that could be called at any moment, and also the stuff that we've become used to with the U.S. president since he retook the office in January, taking aim at Canada over trade, taking jabs at Canada over our sovereignty, and also taking jabs at the Prime Minister, calling him the governor, and of course the comment that many Canadians don't appreciate, calling us the 51st state, but now really weighing into Canadian politics. And you heard his comments right there about the Conservative leader being no friend of mine and saying he thinks it would be easier to deal with the Liberal. And then you showed Pierre Poilievre's reaction, firing back, saying, well, why does he think the Liberal government or Liberal leader might be easier? He says because Trump knows that Poilievre would be a tougher negotiator and always put Canada first, going on to say Carney is weak and would cave to Trump's demands. Really reacting to the U.S. president has been front and center since he retook office. It really is a tightrope that Canadian politicians are having to walk right now, as we've seen a surge in national pride recently, pushing back against Donald Trump, the administration, and of course the ongoing threat of tariffs, as Donald Trump is really looking to launch economic warfare against our country, Michelle.
Meanwhile, there's new polling that shows the gap between the Conservatives and the Liberals has changed dramatically in just the past couple of weeks. Break down some of those new polling numbers for us.
Michelle, interesting polling numbers. As we say, we are on the verge of a potential election call, and potentially Canadians could be going to the polls in the spring. So that is why the numbers are quite interesting right now. And the latest poll from the Angus Reid Institute this week shows the Liberals, under newly sworn-in Prime Minister Mark Carney, surging to a 5-point vote intention advantage nationally after trailing significantly just a few months ago. Here are the numbers right here. 42% say they'd support Liberals to 37% Conservative, and the NDP have now dropped into the single digits, as the poll goes on to say what was a tired, discardable brand just 3 months ago, referring to the Liberals, has turned the race towards an election around dramatically. But the Angus Reid poll does point out a serious caveat. Much of the voting intention lacks any solid footing for the Liberals specifically, by saying half of the would-be Liberal voters are saying they're committed to this position. That pales in comparison to the Conservative base. Upwards of 66% say they're locked into that position. So interesting numbers, as of course we are on the verge of a spring election call.
Makes you wonder what the next number of weeks will bring. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre says if elected, his government would set a deadline of 6 months to greenlight federal permits for a critical mineral deposit in northwestern Ontario known as the Ring of Fire.
Companies discovered one of the largest untapped areas for rare earth metals in the world. Buried just under their feet was tens of billions of dollars of chromite, cobalt, copper, nickel, gold, and countless other resources that the world is desperate for. It's called the Ring of Fire. They could make Canada very rich. It would be life-changing for Northern Ontario towns, galvanizing thousands of paychecks and modern infrastructure. It would help our First Nations become richer. It would boost our economy with billions of dollars, allowing us to become less dependent on the Americans after we start selling those resources overseas.
Poilievre says his government would commit $1 billion to build a road network linking the potential mining site to Ontario's highway network, and would include First Nations community 500 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. Terms of reference were finalized between 15 First Nations and Ottawa in January.
In the Middle East, Israel carried out more attacks today as it resumes its offensive in the Gaza Strip. Local health workers say at least 20 Palestinians were killed in the latest strikes. The Israeli military also warned residents in the northern and southern parts of the territory to leave their homes, saying they are combat zones. Airstrikes killed more than 400 people yesterday, according to Palestinian health authorities. Israel's prime minister said he ordered the military action because Hamas has rejected proposals to secure an extension of the ceasefire. Hamas accused Israel of jeopardizing efforts by mediators to negotiate a permanent deal to end the fighting.
Ukraine's president spoke by phone this morning with Donald Trump about efforts to end Moscow's war in his country. The U.S. president said he discussed Russian and Ukrainian requests and needs for a peace deal in the hour-long call. Trump said much of the talk was based on his phone call yesterday with his Russian counterpart. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was looking to find out today details about what was said in that call on Tuesday. Vladimir Putin agreed to stop attacking Ukrainian energy facilities temporarily, but did not endorse a full 30-day ceasefire. Moscow and Kyiv accused each other today of launching air attacks that damaged infrastructure just hours after their leaders agreed to the limited truce on energy infrastructure. Well, Canada's population has reached an all-time high despite growth slowing. Now, Stats Canada says the population grew to 41.5 million as of January 1st. That's up 0.2% from October of last year. Population growth has slowed since peaking in the third quarter of 2023. And Stats Can says it saw the slowest growth rate since 2020 when pandemic border restrictions were in place.
A local community group based here in the GTA is giving back one meal at a time to those in need during Ramadan. CTV's Jessica Smith is at the Rexdale Community Center to tell us more. Jess.
Well, Michelle, there's a lot going on. We got chopping going on, lots of fresh veggies, and I'm joined by Ala Adib, the CEO of Smiles for Saatchi. So talk to me about what your group is, because you've been hard at work all morning. We have fresh veggies everywhere, and this is really going to help those facing insecurity in our community.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Ala. We've been doing Feed the Fasting for 4 years now, and every day we prepare meals for the less fortunate. We give it out to mosques, refugees, and we bring the community together, and every day is in commemoration of someone who passed away from gun violence.
Why was it important to you to be able to assemble this wonderful group of people and give out these fresh meals? Because I know we're in a time that's difficult for a lot of folks when it comes to providing that fresh food and those really good nourishing meals. Why was it important for you to gather the community together to help those in need?
In our religion, we are supposed to give back to our community, and during Ramadan, it's great to feed people who are fasting. So because we've all experienced loss and we've all experienced some type of tragedy, I think it was great for us to come together as a community and give back to the people that really need it the most. So it's been a healing experience for not only myself, but everybody in my community.
Now you guys are assembling fresh food, so where is this going today? Because I know everyone's been hard at work. We're kind of getting ready to package things up, but where is it going today?
Today we're taking it to a few places. We take it to Covenant House, Radisson Hotel, Bin Abbas Mosque, Janatul Firdaus Mosque, and a few other homes where people are facing food insecurity. So we have volunteers come and personally drop off all the meals to these places. And this is our 4th year, so we're super excited to continue doing this. And this year we actually went to 4 different cities. I just got back from Minnesota. We went to Ottawa, Edmonton, and we're going to Ohio this weekend. So we're planning on continue doing this. We've had over 150 meals and 150 volunteers in all these cities. So I'm excited to make this more of like a global thing, not just in Toronto, but kind of share this experience with people all around the world.
Now, it is so cool to be able to see everyone lending a hand and leaning in. If people want to participate, they want to help out, whether it's donating vegetables, whether it's donating their time, how do they do that?
Right now, we're based in Ister Restaurant, so you could definitely drop off some food over there for us. And if you follow us on Instagram, just send us a DM. We'll be able to let you know how you can support our initiative. And we're just grateful for any support. You could come out and even just cut some vegetables with us. We're grateful for everything.
Listen, they've been chopping all morning. Everyone's really hard at work. When it comes to the reach you guys want to have, you mentioned you want to take it global, but where did this all begin? Because I know this is obviously a very personal story for you.
This began in my living room. So my younger brother was murdered due to gun violence 4 years ago. And since then, I've just been trying to figure out ways how I can give back to the community and include other people who actually experienced this loss as well. So when we first started, I just found all the people who passed away from gun violence and personally reached out to their families and asked them if we can prepare food on their behalf. So after doing that, we've made over 14,000 meals for people, and we've had over thousands of volunteers come and support us. So it's more of like a healing experience, and I knew that after this happened to me, I wanted to share with other people, and I wanted other people to be able to give back and be able to feel proud about what we're doing and not just kind of be sad. I just wanted to make people smile. So our name is Smile for Saatchi, and I think we're doing that.
And then some. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time. They're going to continue working. I'm going to send things back inside to Lindsay to tell you your forecast, because it is a beautiful day, and you guys are hard at work, and we're going to deliver the meals later on, but I'll send things back inside. Thank you.
Thank you, dearly.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And I want to give a shout out to St. Catharines, Ontario right now. Not only the provincial hotspot, but already at 20 degrees this afternoon. Here's a look at our almanac. Now, I do want to point out that the record to beat today in Toronto is 22.8 degrees. That was set back in 2012. And perhaps you remember this week in 2012, we had a March heat wave. Look at those numbers. At one point, we climbed all the way to 26 degrees. Nothing quite like that in our forecast. In fact, we will have falling temperatures into this weekend, maybe even a little bit of snow. We'll talk about the long-range forecast after this break here on CTV News at noon.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. And really, today is one of those days, if you can get outside, get outside. It's lovely out there.
I'm going to call it, this is the best day of the week weather-wise, because it's really warm. I mean, we're nearing 20 degrees. My parents were over this morning and we were looking at the temperature in the Bahamas. It's almost the same.
No need to go to the Bahamas. Let's just enjoy Toronto today. You might be singing a different tune in a couple of days because it'll be back to reality. But it's true. This last day of winter is a beauty here in the GTA, not just with the sunshine, but the mild temperatures as well. A nice southerly wind. A change is coming, though. It's not a dramatic instant change. It'll happen a little more so over time into the weekend. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Before we talk about that, let's focus on the good and today. Look at that sunrise this morning. Beautiful, little more cloud in the mix today compared to yesterday, but very warm. In fact, in Toronto, we've already climbed 3 degrees since the last time you checked in with us. It is now 18 degrees in the Windsor area, still at 8 degrees in Ottawa, but the city well on its way to a double-digit day also. And 11 in Muskoka, 16 degrees right now in Wyerton. Notice that daytime highs right across the board are well above seasonal. Average temperature this time of year for a high is 5-6 degrees. So yeah, no contest. We are well above that. And this evening's looking lovely too. Sunset time close to 7:30 p.m. So you still have lots of opportunity to get outside and enjoy. Daylight extending into the evening. It's just lovely. Maybe fire up the barbecue tonight if you're looking for a way to enjoy. The change is coming first in the form of precipitation. A few showers are expected through the overnight hours. More on this in just a moment. Temperature-wise, though, we will remain mild tonight and for tomorrow. Really, the next couple of days, not too bad. It's the weekend where it will feel different, but things are visually going to start to look a little different as early as tonight and tomorrow, thanks to this area of low pressure. Notice that. That is snow, heavy snow moving across the U.S. Midwest, and it is going to swing its way through northern and central sections of Ontario. We are going to get rain as opposed to 20 to 40 centimeters of snow like our friends in Sault Ste. Marie and Timmins, but it is possible that we could see a little bit of a change over to flurry activity in some areas as early as Thursday night. First, yeah, a couple of millimeters of rain, nothing all that significant. In fact, a lot of the day tomorrow is going to be dry. There's the clearing we're expecting for this afternoon. Overnight, there's 4 a.m. Again, good portion of tomorrow is going to be dry, but as the cooler air filters in, flurries will be a possibility Thursday night and into the very early morning hours of Friday. But Friday is a nice day, 9 degrees and sunshine. Let's talk about the weekend, though. Unsettled for Saturday, overnight low -9, only 2 degrees for your Sunday. And right now it looks like we could get a little bit of snow Sunday, overnight into Monday. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay.
Oh, looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sonny Williams.
2 NASA astronauts are adjusting to life back on Earth after a scheduled week-long journey to the International Space Station last June turned into a 9-month layover. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore were among a crew of 4 astronauts in a SpaceX Dragon capsule that splashed down yesterday evening. CTV science and tech specialist Dan Riskin was among those watching, like myself, and joins us now. And Dan, there was really a picture-perfect splashdown, and they were greeted by dolphins. What a bonus.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like the Earth was like, welcome back, and let's just remind you how wonderful this place is. And, you know, I've never been to space, but I can imagine that, you know what it's like to have been inside all day and you finally get a chance to go outside. You can imagine that being on the ISS for 9 months and getting a chance to be outside is pretty nice, too. Now, they were stuck inside the capsule for a good hour after splashdown, so they didn't get to swim with the dolphins or anything like that, but it's still nice that the dolphins showed up.
So I'm just trying to get my head around it. You think you're going to be there for a few days, but it ends up being over 9 months. What do you think about all the hype about these astronauts being stranded for so long?
Stranded is a great word. Gilligan's Island was a great show. It's fun to imagine, you know, you think you're going on this trip, and then all of a sudden the world falls out from under you and you're stranded and you can't get home. That's not exactly what happened. I mean, these astronauts did plan to go for 8 days, and they were planning to go back on the same starship that they went up on. But things didn't go the way they planned. And that's okay because it was a test flight. And so when the mission changed, the astronauts said, great, we'll jump into action and we'll take part in this NASA mission that's already underway. And they jumped into service. And listen, they're astronauts. They're more than happy to be part of a longer mission as opposed to a shorter one. So it was a bonus for them. Whether there's a little voice inside them that was saying, you know, I would have liked to have been home for my kid's birthday or whatever it was, they never articulated that. So maybe we'll hear a more full story from them. But certainly everything they've said and everything that NASA has said that, you know, them staying longer wasn't a bad news story at all. And it's just an opportunity to take advantage of the great skills of these two astronauts and put them to use.
Well, I wonder if their tune's going to change now that they're on Earth, because if you're stranded up there at everyone's mercy and they're like, how you doing? Of course you're going to say you're doing fine, everything's okay. Right. Anyway, a lot of talk about what went wrong on this 9-month unplanned stay. What about what went right?
Yeah, a lot of things went right. And in fact, the fact that it turned into a 9-month stay, in a sense, is part of what went right. NASA took an unexpected result from their test spacecraft, and they took the cautious course of action by sending that spacecraft back alone, and then putting Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams into this rotation on a normal crew mission on the International Space Station. But just the physics of coming back on one of those SpaceX Dragons, I mean, it feels easy because we see it happening all the time, but it is not easy. That thing is going more than 22 times the speed of sound as it approaches the atmosphere. It first starts to slow down with its rockets, then it takes advantage of the friction of the atmosphere, and there's like plasma against the side of the spacecraft, so much so that they lose radio contact for several minutes. That's the diciest part, where basically the ground crew can't even talk to them or get any telemetry from the spacecraft itself. Then it comes out the other side of that. It fires this drogue chute, which is this small parachute that slows it down a little more. And then finally, those nice big 3 final chutes. And by the time it lays down in the ocean, I mean, the deceleration that had to happen is really mind-blowing. And the fact that humans do this on a fairly regular basis now really is just really impressive engineering, really impressive physics, and makes you feel like you live in the future.
Yeah, it is incredible, and it was just great to watch. All right, CTV Science and Tech Specialist Dan Riskin, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up on CTV News at noon, an exclusive look inside a controversial spiritual group that some call a cult. We'll have more on the latest W5 investigation when we return.
Are they gurus, grifters, or cult leaders in a worldwide exclusive? W5's Avery Haynes has been invited into the inner circle of a controversial spiritual group.
It's called Twin Flames Universe, a mostly online group that guarantees if you pay for their program, you'll find love. W5's Avery Haynes has the story.
Nurse Simmer Sakon owns a cosmetic clinic in West End, Toronto. She's one of about 2,000 paying students of Twin Flames Universe.
I booked a free consultation, had a good connection, and that was kind of my start of being part of the Twin Flame Universe community.
Over the last year and a half, that free consultation has cost her about $20,000 in courses and one-on-one coaching, all online.
I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. Very, very gradually over time, I actually started to feel my feelings.
Simmer still hasn't found her twin flame, but insists it's money well spent.
I truly believe that I will manifest and attract my partner in a very peaceful, healthy way, hopefully, yes.
See that phone on the table? There's a woman on the other end monitoring every word.
Rebecca?
Rebecca is a crisis management expert based in the U.S.
Like, they're not a cult.
Rebecca arranged this interview for Twin Flames Universe in the wake of an avalanche of articles and docuseries, all focusing on the outrageous online behavior of the founders, Canadian Shalia Devine and her husband, Jeff Devine.
big scary Jeff and Shalia. Woo! We're gonna come and eat your children. You're my student. You do not school me. Where freedom is abused, it will be taken from you.
Your choice has been out of order, so you can make a new choice.
Twin Flames Universe first approached me by email, denying they are a high-powered cult and requesting an open and honest conversation. At their headquarters in northern Michigan, I was invited into their mansion.
It's traumatizing to have the whole world bearing down on you, and you go online and there's hundreds and hundreds of hateful comments.
The PR company shared some of those hateful comments.
I can't wait to see you and your hippo of a wife go to jail.
You little tiny Corvette wipe. I hope you both get eaten by rabid dogs.
Tick, tick, tick. Your time is running out. I'm coming for you.
The IRS, FBI, state, and local police have all been contacted about Twin Flames Universe over allegations of forced labor, tax evasion, and even brainwashing followers into changing genders. They have not been charged with any crimes.
Jeff wants to control people. He likes to have every aspect of their lives controlled.
Keely Griffin is the highest-ranking follower to defect from the Twin Flames universe.
He has a very sick mind. I think he gets off on seeing them become his creation.
Current students deny they're brainwashed.
It's not physically possible to brainwash someone online.
No, we're not a cult.
No one forced me to change my name, change my gender, have surgeries.
In part two of the story, shocking allegations from former followers who accuse the group's leaders of controlling everything from their love lives to their genders. That airs tonight on CTV National News.
Still to come, landlords say some tenants are taking advantage of a massive backlog of cases at Ontario's Landlord and Tenant Board, refusing to pay rent or move out. Details after the break.
Returning to our top story, Premier Doug Ford is set to unveil his new cabinet this afternoon.
A swearing-in ceremony will take place at the Royal Ontario Museum. Ford spoke about what to expect a short time ago.
Well, we'll have the same size of cabinet, but we're putting the best of the best on the ice to fulfill the mandate that we were given by the people.
Same size, meaning 37, including yourself?
Yes.
No new portfolio for the tariffs?
No, not on the tariffs, no.
What about shakeups? Are you shuffling some of your...
Oh, stay tuned. You'll see in a minute.
Thank you,
The swearing-in ceremony begins at 2 p.m. at the Royal Ontario Museum. You can watch live coverage on CP24, and we'll have a full report later on CTV News at 5 and 6.
During the pandemic, there were massive backlogs at Ontario's Landlord and Tenant Board. It could take as long as a year just to get a hearing.
While the board can now hear a case within 3 to 6 months, landlords say some tenants are still abusing the system. CTV's Pat Foran has our story on Consumer Alert.
Mooney Chad Latchman of Brampton bought this house for his children, but decided to rent it out for a few years before they moved in. Now he has tenants that won't pay the rent or move out.
This looks like it is a professional tenant.
Latchman says he's had issues with the tenants over the past 4 years, and he's been before the Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board to evict them 3 times. Each time there's been an appeal, and now that the appeal process has been exhausted, they decided to go to court.
When I asked for my rent, he said, you know, we are in court. So if we are in court, you don't have to pay.
Latchman says he's currently owed $25,000 in back rent. He says he's stuck paying the mortgage, property taxes, and some utility bills.
I have to continue paying the mortgage. I sell my RSP to keep the mortgage going. He's not paying a nickel.
Even though a judge told the tenants they must pay $5,000 in January and another $6,000 last month, they ignored it. They also ignored our phone calls. We're here with your landlord. He says you haven't been paying the rent and you owe him about $25,000. Latchman says he's fed up and wants out.
I give up. I want to get out of it. No more.
These are just massive tactics that these tenants are using because the times are tough. They're now resulting into abusing the system.
Ontario Landlords Watch, an advocacy group for landlords, says the system needs to change to deal with tenants who are exploiting the rules.
There's no reason for someone to stay in someone's unit that long and not be able to make any type of payment arrangements.
Latchman says he'll never be a landlord again and worries his tenants will stay in his home many months longer and never pay the rent they owe.
He come here and tell my wife, this case will be for years before he enter in court. I have enough of it. I cannot continue.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Amid the surge in Canadian pride caused by the trade war with the U.S., the National Ballet of Canada decided to do something a little different during a performance of Swan Lake last night. CTV's John Musselman has the story.
2,000 people eagerly await the opening movement of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. Maestro David Briskin does something unexpected. National anthem fills the Four Seasons Center for the Performing Arts. Patrons stand and cheer, and some even sing along.
I wanted it to be authentic, and I said, so let's not commit to how long we do it, how many performances, let's give it a try. But the result was just beyond anyone's imagination. It seemed to have provided a cathartic moment.
It catches some by surprise. There's no announcement beforehand. Briskin says it started about 10 days ago with a recommendation by one of his orchestra members.
This is a moment to take one anthem that we all know, that we all sing, and raise our voices as one in show of support for one another and for the country.
The anthem opening is part of a 17-show run of Swan Lake performed by the National Ballet of Canada. The arts offer an escape from the daily political headlines, especially the ongoing tariff wars. Still, Briskin says this is in no way a political statement.
It's really touched me quite deeply to see the response. As I said, you know, we hear "O Canada" before a hockey game, and we hear it at a baseball game, and it's kind of pro forma, or we'll hear it sung kind of stylized by someone. But this is just a very straightforward singing of the anthem, which just provides a moment of clarity and unity, and I think just a little bit of catharsis for people in these times.
And patrons seem to welcome the patriotic opening.
Although it's not the greatest circumstances that we start doing these things more often, start feeling this national pride, I'm really grateful for it, and it's something that we really need.
And I was so happy to be here, to be able to stand up and then sing the national anthem as well. So if they continue on, it's in solidarity for the whole nation.
The anthem has created plenty of interest online and on social media with more than 96,000 views. John Musselman, CTV News.
All over the world, when you think of Irish dancing, one word comes to mind: Riverdance.
This week, the celebration of Irish dance and so much more is once again drawing audiences in Toronto. And for one dancer, this stop on the tour is particularly special. CTV's Andrea Case reports.
5, 6, 7, stand.
I'm always up for a challenge, but I'm not about to quit my day job. A few easy steps of Riverdance choreography has me out of breath. Imagine an entire show.
Harder than it looks.
It's nothing for Bolton's Tara Rochester. After her first Irish dance class at around 7 years old, she quickly fell in love with the genre.
It was simply just an advertisement in the newspaper. My parents saw it. I thought this would be fun for a young, energetic kid to start, so signed me up, and I've been at it ever since.
Years later, she saw a production of Riverdance in Toronto.
I was about 10 years old, so my mom took my sister and I to see the show in Edinburgh Theatre, where the shows are actually going to be this entire week. From the start, though, I absolutely loved it.
From child dancer to three-time champion, then auditions led her to being a cast member of Riverdance.
So I've been to Dubai, all around Europe, China, and most recently Taiwan.
And now Toronto. Just after St. Patrick's Day, it's a great time for the show, which is celebrating 30 years to be here.
In the show, there's contemporary, we have dervish dancers, American tap dancers. Again, Riverdance is about celebrating culture, not just Irish dancing. And I think it truly does that through the different art forms.
The dancers kept busy offstage too, working for the town of Caledon.
return.
It is a hard balance. I absolutely love the dance and I would love to do it as long as I can. But work is also very supportive of that, and they understand what the opportunity means to me and just the greater picture of life, and that you have to take these opportunities while you have them. So I'm very thankful to that.
Riverdance is on stage now at the CAA Theatre at 651 Yonge Street until Sunday, March 23rd. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Fabulous. And I think we should take this opportunity. Lindsay's very good at Highland dancing.
Oh, well.
You've got a whole other talent.
Yes, so back in the day, I was a Highland dancer, but I have to commend Andrea. That was some excellent Irish dancing.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. And I think we're all pretty impressed with the weather today.
So impressed.
Let's enjoy this afternoon. And in fact, we'll take one more look at the temperatures out there because they are on the rise. Already 20 degrees in Niagara Falls. We're on our way to 16 in Toronto this hour. But here's what's coming. Some showers overnight tonight and showers at times for tomorrow. Temperature-wise, we're still going to be comfortable tomorrow. Not as warm as today, but at 13 degrees, no complaints. It's into the weekend that some colder air is set to arrive. We are really going to feel it Saturday night. And certainly Sunday, daytime high of only 2 degrees. And then Michelle and Nathan, I'm watching Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday for the potential for some flurries in the mix. Back to you.
Good to know. Thanks, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.